So when you position your clinic as a Ritz Carlton, you're going to command more money, but your customers also expect more. So it's the whole positioning of people aren't buying the newbie. What people are buying is the outcome. They're buying the results. They're buying the things of why they're in there. And it's our job to make sure that we're selling a great saying is we sell their future, not your features.
I'm Garrett Salpeter, and I believe that the most powerful and transformative way to help people recover from pain and injury, heal from trauma, and reach their highest levels of fitness and performance is to focus on the nervous system. In this podcast, we'll share knowledge from the frontiers of neuroscience and inspirational stories of how applying that knowledge has empowered people from all walks of life to heal, adapt, and grow. Welcome back to the NeuFit Undercurrent podcast. My guest today is Dr. Jamey Schrier, physical therapist who owned and then sold his own practice and now has a business called the Practice Freedom Method, where he trains other physical therapy practice owners to optimize all aspects of their business, and has a really unique and interesting perspective, which I'm really excited to have him on to share here. I actually got to meet Jamey recently at a conference, and we got to sit around and talk for quite a while on some downtime in the exhibit hall. Got to share a newbie treatment with him, and we started talking, and I heard some of his ideas, some of his perspective on how practice owners who have a newbie can really optimize and grow their business, and just I couldn't help but encourage him to come on the podcast and share this too. So I'm really excited to have you on here, Jamey. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Gary, appreciate you inviting me. And yeah, it was great having a conversation with you and getting a little free treatment. I'll tell you, it's shoulder's still feeling good.
That's right. It's a couple of weeks later too. That's great.
Yeah.
Um, so can you give us a little bit of your backstory? Obviously in the intro, I just glossed over, but can you tell us a little bit about how you came to be the coach and mentor that you are today?
Yeah, I guess it starts with, opening my own clinic, like many of the people listening, I had those entrepreneurial feelings and wanted to do my own thing and just didn't think people were doing it the way I believed. So I bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and naive as hell opened my practice with the thought that I'm good at what I do, I get great results, and I'm going to build an empire. And did it with my wife, Colleen, who you met. And I'll tell you, for the first year and a half, it was bliss, man. It was like the honeymoon. It was fantastic. People were coming in, no marketing whatsoever, all word of mouth. I was in the back. Dr. Jamey, my wife, fiance at the time, Colleen, was checking people in the front. We went home, 5 o'clock. Life was good. And then as we started to grow, started to hire people and made the mistake of, well, people just think like I do. People just show up on time. People just treat people the way that I treat people, with integrity, and people are responsive and all these other things that there might be people out there going, shaking their head. Yep, yep, I thought the same thing. But that wasn't the case. And things started getting really stressful. And so much so, I started to almost regret doing this. I was working 60 plus hours a week, had a young family at home. My wife got pregnant and went at home. And I was like, well, wait a minute. I'm working more. I'm making less than I was at the place I was working before. And my stress was at an all time high. And then a crazy freak thing happened. My clinic burned down. There was a fire in my building. And it was just like, I was relieved. I mean, when my wife told me, we were driving home from a weekend getaway, and she told me, she goes, my dad's on the phone. I think our building's on fire. And without skipping a beat, I said, good. I hope it's my suite and I hope it burns to the ground, because that's how I was feeling at the time. And I'm not saying you need to have a fire in your practice, but I know there's a lot of people I've spoken to telling that story that are going through some serious stuff that they wish something happened because they're just overwhelmed. So I thought about it for a little bit, and then I said, you know what? I'm not going to quit. I just don't know what to do. I don't know how to build my business in a way where I'm not trapped in it, that I can serve the people I want to serve, make the impact that I want to make the impact, and yes, support my family. So I started reading more books about it. I started taking courses about it and programs. And the biggest thing I did is I hired a coach, but I went outside of the industry because my thought was business is business. And yes, there's some advantages, nomenclature and stuff inside the business, but I wanted to know how other people, service oriented businesses, were operating. I want to see if I was similar. And I found out I was. It was like scary how similar all, other people were having it. So fast forward, my goal was this. I didn't want to work on Monday. That was one of my big goals. I just didn't want to work on Mondays. And frankly, I wanted to choose when I worked. So it took me 9 years. Garrett, I thought it was going to take me about 12 months, maybe 18 months. I'll put a little work into it. Hey, I'm a good student. I'll take some tests, and all of a sudden I'll be there. It didn't happen. It took me 9 years to finally remove myself from the day to day, which means I didn't answer phones, I didn't do billing, I didn't do any of that. I was still the face of the company. I still connected with people. I still had meetings with my leadership team, but I was in control of my time, and I made more money than I'd ever have. I took 137 days off because I actually counted, and I'm like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Shared my story, and people reached out to me and said, can you help me do that? And I realized there was a need out there. Fell in love with this idea of coaching and helping owners who helps people. And 11 years later, here I am, having worked with hundreds of people. And as you know, wrote a book about my experience and just want to make just a massive impact, ripple effect by helping other owners help build and grow their businesses, but also create the life that they know they deserve.
That's awesome. I love that. It's a great example of this pain to purpose theme that we see in many entrepreneurial origin stories. I'll give a shout out to your book, which if you're listening you don't see, but if you're watching, you see me holding up here, The Practice Freedom Method. Really, really excellent book. Certainly in addition to our conversation, this also gave me some actionable insights that we've already started using at our clinic. In terms of some various things about tracking metrics, some ideas in marketing, a few things on staff meetings, and some mindset shifts. I mean, really, it's really good stuff. Um, and I also like that you have been on the journey, and you're farther along on the path, so you can turn back and say, hey, it's this way. Being able to coach from that perspective, from having actually done it, is awesome. And then we've also got to talk about the investment that you make in your own coaching, and we've compared notes on different mastermind groups and coaching that we've done working on ourselves personally too. So definitely practice what you preach there, and I respect that. And now I'm going to put you on the spot as a coach too, and I'm going to be as a practice owner. We do have our one clinic here in Austin, but also putting myself in the shoes of all the practice owners listening to this. My biggest question, I'll break it up into sub questions that we can zoom in on, but my biggest question is, I've got this newbie, so how can I make money on it? And there's many different topics in that realm, right? There's many aspects of running the business, from acquisition and sales to internal processes to overall messaging and marketing. But let's start with one of the most common questions that we get when people are talking to us at NeuFit about the newbie. That question being, can I charge cash for this thing, and how do I do it?
Yeah. That is a great question, because having seen the newbie, having experienced the newbie, there's no doubt that this tool, this thing, can help so many people. So the issue is not, can this thing help people? It can. So if we put that over there saying this thing has just lots of efficacy and all this other stuff, we're really looking at, so how do I position it? And I want to get paid for doing this. I want to get paid for helping people, which is okay. We want to get paid, have a purpose, help a lot of people, and get paid doing it. So to answer your question simply, well, what's stopping you from getting paid? And I'll say that question a little rhetorically, because one of the things that is stopping you is you might feel that this machine has to go in some code in a third-party billing that is nowhere near going to pay you what this machine is actually worth. So that's number one. So then what can you do? And you tell me with the coding, Garrett, but does it have to be coded within the insurance, or can it be considered outside of the scope of the insurance and outside of the scope of reasonable and regular rehab physical therapy care?
So the answer is it depends. There's a range of clinics and a range of strategies that they use. There's some that are 100% insurance and bill it under codes like neuromuscular reeducation and take the position that in therapeutic activities and manual therapy, when we use it with the electric glove and different approaches there, and they take the position that it is part of a reasonable interpretation of those codes. There's other clinics that are all cash and don't bother with insurance at all and use it because it differentiates them. It provides enough value to where it helps convince clients that it's worth actually paying out of pocket instead of going someplace down the street that would accept their insurance. And then there's
Yeah.
some in between, and this is something that compliance wise, I have to encourage everyone to check with their own attorneys or advisors and their insurance contracts, right? All these caveats, not making any recommendations, but there are some clinics that take the position, like you said, that yes, there's neuromuscular education and therapeutic activities, and what the newbie does is an addition to that and beyond the scope of the textbook definition of those codes and the services provided. And so they, sometimes will have, or some clinics, all of the time, will have an option where people can get their standard PT, or they can pay for an add-on service where that includes the newbie. And I'm just, essentially here, just to be clear, relaying what I've seen, not able to make specific recommendations because it can vary by state, by insurance contract, by circumstance, by status, in or out of network, et cetera. Right. So, but that's sort of the lay of the land.
Yeah. So this is really good, because there's some deeper things at play here, right? Number one, there's the interpretation of law, and you and I are not going to get to interpretation of the Practice Act and interpretation of your contract with a particular insurance company. So, do your due diligence, check that. But let's just make an assumption here. Let's make an assumption that the newbie isn't just some run-of-the-mill E-stim unit, as you told me, because, well, it's like E-stim times 100 on steroids. And I was like, okay, to me, that isn't the TENS unit, right? The old school TENS unit. So if it's not the TENS unit, or if it's not your normal everyday practice of neuromuscular rehab or Therex activity, then this thing is in addition. And if it's in addition, because I was one of the first people in the United States to do dry needling. I had lots of back pain, and I couldn't get any relief from anybody. And it just happens to be in Maryland that one of my friends did dry needling, never heard of it, got it done. I said, I love this. I'm going to learn how to do it. But there was, Maryland had a loophole that you could actually do dry needling. It wasn't called dry needling. And I had to kind of come with the same thing, like, well, how do I bill this through insurance? And, it could be a neuromuscular rehab, it could be something else. But then I was shifting and said, well, wait a minute, this is outside of the scope. This isn't just some normal thing. And it's so darn valuable. And people want the results of this. So why not either add on a dry needling fee and then also create a dry needling package, a dry needling program that was outside of the scope of, third party insurance. So this is something similar. And I think that you need to first, and I want to, when we talk further, I want to just move the conversation is out of pocket. But I think just thinking about this is, one is what the rules are, the laws, so to speak, and most likely they're going to be very gray and very vague, and it's going to be up to you. And two is going to be, really deciding what you feel comfortable with, because it's our business. As long as it's legal or, legal, ethical, and moral, we can do what we want. And moral is ethical. Those, not everyone agrees with the same ethics and morality. So some people say it would be immoral to charge someone something like this. And the other person would say, I paid 15 grand for this machine. Nobody does it in my entire town. Are you kidding me? It delivers the results that someone's charging $30,000 in a surgery. I'm going to charge more. So you have to decide that. And that's ultimately the decision you're going to really have to make. Because let's just face it, all the interpretation stuff is going to be gray. Now, having said that, let's move to, you don't have any third parties looking down on you. You didn't sign any agreements with that. Now you're looking at this device as an opportunity to help more people, right? As an opportunity to help people that have been in pain, that maybe, like you mentioned before to me, when we're speaking diabetic neuropathy, movement, types of movement disorders or performance, for athletes, whatever the thing is, you have a solution that is phenomenal. So if we're going to talk about that, what we really have to then start with is, let's get back to what you're about. What are you about as an owner? What is your company about? What is your purpose? What is your vision? What are your values? And before you say, Jamey, what the hell you're going, people are like, what are you going all the way back for that? Because you have to really decide where you are on the spectrum of the type of company you are. Can I explain what I mean by that?
Yes, please do.
Okay. So here's how I look at it. Imagine a triangle, and imagine there's 3 levels to the triangle. And imagine you are buying a hotel. And you're talking to your marketing people, and your marketing people is, okay, well, what kind of hotel is this going to be? And you, as first-time owner of a hotel, going, I don't know, it's a hotel, you sleep there. Because, well, not necessarily. Because if it's I'll just choose Marriott as the brand. If it's the Residence Inn Marriott brand, the Residence Inn is going to be marketed and positioned very different than the JW or the W or the Ritz Carlton. They're both hotels, but they're very different of the type of person that they attract. It doesn't mean the person that stays at the Residence Inn can't also stay at the JW and vice versa. But when you're messaging the hotel, the benefits of the hotel, why you would want to stay at this place, the type of people that stay at the Ritz, the status it has, you're not going to use that same messaging for someone that's on 95, where I live in East Coast, that's driving on 95 looking for a place to crash. Residence Inn's $99 a night. They're going to attract 2 different types of people. So by you doing some of this deeper, thoughtful work about, well, what type of place are you? Remember, the Residence Inn, multi-million-dollar brand. JW, multi-million-dollar brand. There's not a good or bad. There's just a clarity of who you are. So that is always step 1. Who are you? What are you about? And the next question would be, Garrett, what is the type of person that you want to really help and focus on? I know you can help everyone. Before someone says, well, Jamey, I can help. I know you can help everyone, but you can't market to everyone. You don't have a budget to market to everyone. So we're going to have to narrow that down. Who are the people that you can help better than anyone else? And Garrett, you and I talked about this, and I said, well, if I was really promoting the newbie, I would focus more on the thing that it does the best with. And what did you say?
Well, almost fell into that, everyone trap, right? But there's a few
You
categories.
did say everyone. And I
There's
said,
certain,
besides everyone,
yeah,
who would it be? And again, this is just a hypothetical
only
for the
everyone, only everyone with a nervous system, I'll say. But
yeah.
uh, so acute sports injury, post-op, and then chronic neurodegenerative conditions. If I had to pick broad strokes,
So
those
chronic neurodegenerative would be neuropathy.
neuropathy, MS, people not
Yeah.
again not treating MS, but helping people recover neuromuscular reeducation,
Okay.
restore function, and quality of
So
life improvements.
let's use neuropathy.
Mhm.
A, there's a lot of people that have it.
Yeah, tens of
Um,
millions in this country alone. It's a
yeah.
crazy number.
So there's a ton of people. It's well known. Like if you say neuropathy, people in that world that either have it or know someone that has it, they understand it. The people that don't have it, that are like, it doesn't really matter anyways. So it's easier to message that in. So then it's a matter of, okay, so if we're going to work with neuropathy, are we going to be the residents in of neuropathy, or are we going to be the JW of neuropathy? Well, what's the difference? The difference is the price point. Because if you are opening up to a much bigger audience, then it's going to be based a lot on price, especially if there's other things in that market that are, quote, similar, meaning tools and technologies to treat neuropathy. So the price will determine the people's perspective. In other words, you don't need to drive a BMW to get to point A to point B, but there's a lot of people that have BMWs. Now, you could just have a nice little Volkswagen. And there's some people that have Volkswagens. Probably a lot of people have Volkswagens. Perhaps more people have Volkswagens than BMWs. But the difference is the price point. The difference is the marketing. So if you choose, you're like, you know what? We're going to be the Ritz Carlton of the diabetic neuropathy world, meaning we're going to price our services and the value of our services as such to represent that. So we're going to be in a position in our marketplace that nobody can touch. Nobody can touch. We're going to separate ourselves from the masses. This isn't going to be a $99 treatment. We're going to charge $2,500, and that's going to be 10 sessions or 7 sessions or 60 days of our program. And when you focus on that, and you obviously learn how to have a sales conversation around that, which is, we can get into that if you'd like, or it could be another episode or something. There's no doubt people will write checks. So when you position your clinic as the Ritz Carlton, you're going to command more money, but your customers also expect more. So it's the whole positioning of, people aren't buying the newbie. What people are buying is the outcome. They're buying the results. They're buying the things of why they're in there. And it's our job to make sure that we're selling a great saying is, we sell their future, not your features.
Thank you so much for listening to the Undercurrent podcast. If you're interested in learning more about how NeuFit and the newbie can impact your life, please visit our website at www.new.fit, that's neu.fit, so you can learn more about how it might integrate into your professional practice, how you can use it as a patient, and you can also connect with our team there.
And so many of us sell the features, the bells and whistles that we think are so cool. But if someone's have difficulty walking, they don't care about that. They want to not just walk, they don't want to feel like an outcast, not able to walk. They don't want to be in a situation that they're not able to hang with friends and relatives because they can't walk because of their diabetic neuropathy. That's what you're selling. So your job is to figure out, well, are you the JW? Are you the Sheraton, mid-level, right? Or are you the Residence Inn? Again, from a financial standpoint, they're all multi-million dollar brands. But we're doing this to decide where you want to come in at. Because if you want more people, like just significantly more people, then your price is going to be low. But if you're like, I can't handle that many people, it's just me and a couple other therapists, I'd rather have less volume and hire, less people and work on them and do our thing. And I'd rather charge more, then you're going to be more like the Ritz Carlton.
So then I think the next question is, well, first of all, this is great work, really deciding who we are as practice owners and who we want to be, what our identity is sort of a first piece, because that influences downstream decisions, from hiring to what offers you make to how you design your facility,
Yeah.
whether you open more facilities or not. I mean, all influences, everything else, sort of one of those first dominoes. And then just continuing down this path of messaging, how does one effectively message that in terms of what do you say, but also where do you say it? Do you think the most interesting avenues are going to market to physicians, which I know you have experience doing, marketing direct to patients, which I know you also have experience doing and coaching others on doing, what in that domain. So once you get that message, what are the best ways to get it out to the right people? And does it matter whether you're the Residence Inn or the JW in that example?
Yeah. I mean, in that example, that doesn't necessarily matter, but it also it does matter in the sense it'll change who you reach out to, right? Like when we started promoting the dry needling, when we started promoting a running group, like a running program for distance runners, high level runners, we positioned the program like 1,500 to 2,000. Someone that walks in the morning is not going to pay that money for our program. And the family practitioner down the street doesn't believe, and family practitioner told me this, saying, Jamey, if it's not insurance based, we're not going to refer them to you. Flat out said that because the doctor's mindset was, I don't believe in charging people out of pocket, charge them the cheapest amount as possible through insurance. Well, guess what? I can turn blue in the face trying to convince this person this is a great program for their runners who will pay out of pocket without a question, but I'd rather not. I'd rather focus on someone that doesn't have those limiting beliefs, that doesn't have those self limitations, instead of trying to convince the person otherwise. So I would focus on orthopedists. They don't have an issue with money. They're not sending to me and saying, make sure we go insurance. They don't care. So it depends on what we just talked about. It will depend on who you actually start engaging with as far as potential referral sources. But one more thing about the messaging, because the messaging is critical, right? I would always start with the messaging first of who is your customer for this? And let's get really clear. Let's be obsessive with that customer. What are their pain points? I call them pain points, which are their fears, challenges, their worries, their concerns, and yes, and physical pain as well. What are those? And we can even go even deeper. What are the secondary pain points? For instance, I've had back pain. So primary pain point was my back pain. Primary pain point is I can't do my sports. Garrett, what would be a secondary pain point? Something deeper. I have pain and I can't play basketball, which I love. Oh, I
I
can't
would
hear
guess
you.
that you're getting to some of the downstream
Oh,
effects of that in terms of, I miss out on the joy of activity. I miss out on the ancillary health benefits. If I don't get my, if I don't play basketball, I don't get my cardiovascular workout. And now my doctor's telling me I'm going to lose 3 years off my life on the back end. Or, or if I,
yeah. I don't play basketball. I feel left out of the group that I play with. I start to get depressed. I start to close back up. I start to eat more crap. I start to drink more to try to self-soothe. Like, this is real stuff that's happening in people's lives. So what do you think is happening in the diabetic neuropathy example? What's happening for them? So by diving into their world and fleshing all this out, you're actually creating the message at the same time, because you're creating a message that's going to connect with your audience. So then the next thing you would do are the benefits and outcomes. So what's the outcome? What's the opposite of Jamey being depressed and sitting at home in pain, you know? So what are the outcomes for the diabetic neuropathy patient? So, and all you have to do is really look at your experience of already working with them, and you see all the outcomes. So when you start to position that, then the bridge between where someone is and where they want to be, the bridge is your program. It's just the bridge. And then it's defining your program. Here's how we do it. Here's the path. Here's our structure. Here's the price. Now the price is reflected of the results you get and the experience that you get and the rarity of this. Well, can't I just do an e-stim? Isn't that the same thing? Well, one would think it is, but that would be like apples and oranges. Let me share with you what we do. Let me share with you how we do things here, who we work with, the type of person that gets the best results for us. And you start describing that ideal customer. So when you start taking this message now that you have, this program, then it's a matter of, well, who has influence? This is getting to your marketing question. And I do this with my clients all the time. When they start asking about marketing and they have trouble or something, I go, well, who has influence over your audience? Simple question, right? Now, the obvious answer is, well, doctor has influence over diabetic neuropathy. Yeah. So now you have every doctor in the region that sees diabetic neuropathy patients. Probably a lot of different types of doctors, but it could be non-MD doctors that see diabetic neuropathy patients. It could be support groups for diabetic neuropathy. It could be, what are some others? You're more familiar. What are some other influencers that either directly influence or could lead you to other influencers of diabetic neuropathy?
Whoever the Oprah or talk show host is in that area, someone who has a bit of a following in the media, or like in an analogous scenario, we've done a lot of work with Terry. Excuse me, a lot of work with Terry Walls, who's a medical doctor and researcher and a real trailblazer and thought leader in MS treatment. And so, I've done some content with her, and that has generated thousands of leads for MS patients seeking out NeuFit providers, around the country and now around the world. So if there's an analogous person like that, for neuropathy.
Perfect example. Who is that person in your community? So when you start listing all of this, we call it creating your Dream 100, your dream referral sources. I didn't make up the Dream 100, I just borrowed it. So your Dream 100, but before you say, does it have to be 100? No, it could be your Dream 25, your Dream 50. But the idea is spend some time thinking about all of the potential people. And here's what I'll tell you. It's a hell of a lot more than 10. Like when I started doing this exercise, because I do this exercise too in my business, it was like 150 people. Because once you get an area, there's a lot of people in that space. So now you have all of these possibilities. And now there's two things you have to do. One, take action and connect. And two, learn from what is happening. I can't get you to go 10 for 10. It's not going to happen. It's not how the world works. We get better as we do it. The bigger issue that I've talked to so many practice owners is the deeper fear that they have of fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of pushback, those deeper fears that affect our perfectionist nature. That's the real issue that's going on. So by really having your message dialed in, by knowing, well, what are the challenges and issues of this particular doctor? Like doing some research around the doctor, understanding. I'm sure when you spoke to that doctor that you just mentioned, did you just call him up, or did you go on their website, read some of the stuff he did, some of the blogs he did, searched Facebook, LinkedIn? Did you get as much information as you could about this person?
So this was an introduction through a mutual friend to to this doctor, and I before meeting her in this case, I you know read
Okay.
yeah I watched some videos, read much of her book, and was really fascinated anyway, and wanted to do a deep dive anyway, but also did it so that I could understand her work and how we might be able to work together.
So I can tell you, you and I had one conversation, a good conversation at the conference, and now we're talking. You already bought my book. You're sharing things about my book. Guess what? This person actually cares about me. This person cares about our time together. This person's very thoughtful. Like, that's what I think. Versus, all right, Jamey, let's see. And you start reading my bio that's 10 years old. I'm like, this person's just going through the motions. What do we do before we show up with a potential meeting with somebody or conversation with someone? Do we do our research? Do we find out about them? Because if we do, we're going to show up to that relationship or that conversation differently. They're going to feel it, they're going to sense it. And if we're clear on the questions we ask, we have an idea, but we're like, so, when it comes to diabetic neuropathy patients, what do you feel is the biggest challenge that you see? And how do you do that? And then what else happens? What do you think they're going to say when you start talking about some of these questions? They're going to ask you, well, Jamey, what do you say? Well, we've been working with diabetic neuropathy people for a long time. And what I've recognized is there's really some good stuff out there, but there's something missing. And what I've done is I've, you know, got hooked up with this company that really I think is a huge missing piece. And what we've done is we've developed a program that combines my experience and wisdom over the years, combines with this machine that actually uses direct current, but in a unique way. And the results have been phenomenal. I'd be happy to share some of the results with you, but it is a true game changer. Would that be something that you would find helpful for maybe your patients? I mean, you get down the verbiage, but it doesn't have to be this perfect script. You're just sharing real stuff. And that does take practice and does take a skill. This does require practice and
Yeah.
skill. But if I showed up in your clinic in your town and I sold this, do you think I'd do okay?
I think so, based on hearing what you just said there, and also,
Yeah.
of course, reading in your book. And there's some interesting things there. You're I appreciate how you're tailoring that experience specifically to the audience of people who have a newbie, because you also describe this fascinating experience of having done the usual buy lunches for physicians' offices thing, and it not really working out, and this alternative strategy that you developed around talking to the person at the front desk, figuring out who's actually making the referral decisions, talking to physicians and asking them what they think of physical therapy, in the beginning, and being able to really craft a strategy there. And, I think that was very compelling reading it. And it's also very cool. It speaks to the benefits of coaching that we've talked about too, being able to take those concepts and then tailor them to a specific objective, a customized end.
Yes. The concept is the concept. The concept always works. The strategy is where you take the concept and you apply it to your thing. So in exactly what you said, I mean, asking the front desk, do they accept physical therapy patients or do they treat, do they refer out? I mean, to me, that's just common sense, but not all sense is common. But what you're doing is you're doing your due diligence. You're not assuming anything, right? You're learning, you're asking, you're building rapport with people. The best referral is the one that is introduced, like you just said. Someone introduced you to this doctor, right? So they transferred their this is a good person. They transferred that trust over. Now, of course, you have to take it from there and move forward. So there is endless people out there, and there are endless influencers, doctors, referrals will refer you. This isn't about an outside problem. If there was 5 potential patients, we'd have a little bit of a problem. If you had, how many newbies you have? 2,000 out there at the time of this recording. If there was only 5 or 10 patients and there was 2,000, we'd have a little bit of a problem, but there isn't. There's millions upon millions, and that's just in this one area that it helps. The reality is there's hundreds of millions, tens of millions, because it's human body with a nervous system that breaks down and shows up in different ways. So the reality is, what can you do to show up strategically in front of the right people that potentially can be a referral source or lead you to someone? How do you show up in front of them? Asking questions, listening, engaging. That's the area, the skill set that most people have not learned. That's the skill set that I teach my clients. It's a skill set. Do you know how much I charged during the first, I don't know, 10 years of my practice? I had my practice like 15 years. The first 10 years, do you know the most I ever charged a client? And I'm not talking about insurance telling me to collect a $500 deductible. That's the insurance telling me to do it. I'm talking out of pocket, completely out of pocket, how much I charged the patient.
I'm on the edge of my seat, Jamey. You got to tell me.
$125. That was the most I ever charged. Not a package of 1,000, 125 for a session. That included dry needling and everything else I could help them with. Why did I charge only 125? Because that was my worth. Because I was afraid they would say no if I charged more, or some other bullshit thing I told myself. So now, of course, I just shared with you, I can charge 2,500, 5,000, 10,000, 100,000. Like, the number doesn't matter. Like, all of us have to figure out what number do we start to get nervous and maybe feel we're not worth, because you don't want to try to sell a number higher than that. Right? You're never going to sell something higher than what you're comfortable in selling. However, you can also practice where the number just starts to not have any emotion to it. One of the exercises, and you know, Jesse, one of the exercises he had me do when I started coaching, and remember, I'm going to Jesse saying, Jesse, I've never sold more. At that point, it was like $500. I never sold more than $500 coaching or in my practice ever. He goes, good. You're going to sell a $5,000 workshop. I go, what? Yep. About what? Don't worry about it. We'll figure that out. You already know the information. I said, okay, I trust you. He goes, what I want you to do is get in front of your phone, and I want you to say these words. And it was something like, you know, so our program is consists of this, this, and this is what you can expect. And it will be $5,000. You can do check, credit card, whatever's easiest for you. And just shut up. That was 11 years
How'd
ago.
you feel doing it the first time? How did it feel?
I read it. I wrote it down in my own words. I read it and I said, and in my mind, I'm like, I can't believe I'm saying these words. And it'll be check, credit card, whatever's easiest for you. And I went, silence. And of course, I wanted to talk. I wanted to fill in it. I didn't say a word. Okay, do you need my credit card? I went, and I'm going to my wife. My wife is there. And I'm like, holy, I just made more. You know how many damn treatments that is? $100 a treatment? That's 500 treatments or something. No, 50 treatments, 50 sessions in one conversation. So it got me, the whole point of the story, Garrett, it got me to get over my money issues and my money blocks. So many practice owners, because we are good, morally sound, want to help people and do right. We need to get over the money part because we're doing that at our own peril. We can't pay our bills in our own house. We can't give people raises because we don't have enough money. We sweat bullets when there's a 3 payroll month. All of these are money issues. So what if we could do this? What if we could help hundreds, if not thousands of people and make a ton of money doing it? Would that be okay? Because when someone says yes, those are the people that we work with at Practice Freedom U. If it's like, well, I don't know about that, you don't want to work with us. It's going to be way too uncomfortable. Because some people just don't believe that. And if that's the case, that's fine. You can fight for your own limitations all day long. So that's the deeper part of this. Once you learn that, once you get clear on this messaging and positioning and what this and connecting with, it's just next conversation, next conversation. And all of a sudden, people just start saying yes. Referral sources saying, absolutely. I mean, I'll try anything for my people. They'll start sending you relatives. And you will get more people than you can handle. And they will be paying you, and we can do a whole conversation on perfect pricing of what to price your program at. But most people are charging way too small, guaranteed, way too small. You have 2,000 units in the country, right? 2,000.
Right.
You want to multiply that by 10 at least, right?
I think there's at least room for that much easily.
Okay, so that's 20,000. So in 2,000, the problem is nobody knows about it. When there's a lot more, they know about it, but there's more around. So the idea is you can charge whatever you want. Nobody has this thing. Nobody has it. So charge whatever you feel the Ritz Carlton would charge. Because you have to make sure it's more than what you would pay for the Residence Inn. Because if it's not, it doesn't align. You can't charge for a super amazing experience, with this machine as the backbone and charge $100. They won't value it. The more you pay, the more you pay attention. The value is partly in the money you pay for it. You really think Mercedes and BMWs, you really think they cost that much to create? That much more than the Kia? No, but if they charge less, people wouldn't buy it. Because if I pay $2,500, I want the best. And if you're telling me this program is the best, I'm the best. I pay for the best. I want the best. So you have to believe that's the case, and you'll attract them.
Yeah. And I love this. I love that you've gone so deep on this, because to me, this sort of feels like the meta skill where, like if you learn math, you can become an accountant, you can become a VP of finance, a CFO, you can become an engineer. If you get good with language, you can write a book, write music, write poetry. If you can master some of these dynamics of money psychology and how to speak effectively and, more importantly, listen effectively to what people are saying and engage in these types of conversations, like your example of how you would talk to a physician about this, if you can really master those meta skills, then you can use them on online advertising. You can use them on webinars and workshops. You can use them in talking to physicians. You can use them in talking to patients. You can use them in going out to events and doing demos at wellness fairs in the community. You can use them in all these different channels. So it's sort of the underlying skill that then you can choose to deploy in whatever way works best for you. So I love that you went there. And
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the skill that we all know we need, and we all know we're terrible at it, but we resist it. We resist the skill of persuasion, of S words, selling. And we sell every day. We sell plans of care. We sell showing up for an appointment. We sell the physio ball. We sell the, do you want to try the newbie? We're persuading people all day long. We don't look at it as selling because we believe in what we're doing. So why aren't we believing more in what we're doing and allowing people to get this amazing product and this amazing bridge that's going to help them in their life? We're doing them a disservice if we're not giving them this solution because of our own problems, our own money issues. We're doing them a disservice. So these people that go around saying, I just want to help people, I call bullshit. Because the only way you can help people is elevate you. Because you can't help people past you. You can't give advice past where you are. You can fake it for a little bit, and there's a lot of charlatans out there that read the book, take the weekend course, and come across
A
as
lot of
the
internet in the
expert.
internet marketing world, especially, right? Yes.
There's plenty. But the true, authentic, genuine, real deal, we know who they are because real knows real. And when you become that person in your community, I mean, they'll come to you for everything. And then, of course, you back it up with the stories and the testimonials and all that. See, the one thing, not the one thing, there's a lot of them, but one of the things, Garrett, that I had to embrace, and this took time to embrace. We talk about abundance, right? Abundance and scarcity. People talk about that all the time. I had to embrace the idea that everyone can win. You see, I grew up in sports. I still play sports. And at the end of the day, there's a winner and there's a loser. But at the time of we're recording this, the guy, a quarterback from Jacksonville,
Trevor
what's his name?
Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence, at the time of this recording, is having a tough time. So he's, quote, losing. He, quote, lost 8 games in a row. He's making $55 million this year. Seems like he has good family, good friends. I don't know how much he's really losing. You know what I mean? Like, it's all
Mhm.
perspective. Yes, he's not winning the games, but there is 53 people on a roster. So there's other people involved. He obviously gets a lot of that. So you start to look in perspective, this idea of like, well, wait a minute. Can the patient do well and get back to doing things they love and be happy? And can the company make money for doing that? And can my staff be excited that they helped them get there? And me as an owner, can I be excited that we are the most profitable we ever been? And can the people that referred to us be happy that they helped this person by referring them? Wait a minute, can everyone actually really win here? Because if you don't believe that, the stuff I'm saying ain't gonna work so well.
Yeah.
So it's really shifting our perspective around things, our framework around things, our skill set, elevating that. It's a dance on both of them, but it doesn't have to take a long time. You're not looking for perfect. You're just looking to get going, and you'll learn as you go. But one of my favorite quotes is always get paid for R&D. R&D stands for
I like,
research and development. Always get
I
paid
like
for
that.
R&D. Here's the caveat. Everything's R&D. We're always learning. We're always testing. We're always trying things. So you might as well get paid for trying things. So as you start learning how to speak to different referral sources, go out there and speak to them. I mean, they may refer, they may not. Who cares? You're going to learn from it. And when you get referred someone, you're now going to get paid for practicing. Get paid for practicing.
Amen.
That's how you get there quick. The people that get there slow, if at all, Garrett, they wait for the perfect time. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait till they're perfectly ready.
That's right. If you're waiting
Never
for the
happens.
perfect time, you'll always be waiting. And it's funny that when you right in the moment you shared that quote, which I like, you should always get paid for your R&D. That's a good one. I had not.
And everything's
That's right. Yeah,
R&D.
yeah, that's good. Another right around the moment you said that, I had a quote pop into my mind too, describing, I think perhaps summarizing what you're saying here, and it's something to the effect of if we're talking about results and outcomes, we don't get what we do, we get who we are. So it's these beliefs and our sense of identity and some of these very underlying deep um, psychological constructs sometimes. And I like that we went in this direction because it really is, the belief in money, the belief in what you're worth, how comfortable you feel in your own skin charging a certain amount is a big part of it. And I already said that sort of is the underlying meta skill, so to speak. But I really love that we went in that direction. And I know there's many other things that we could talk about. You mentioned perfect pricing. There's other things we could talk about in terms of specific strategies for getting referrals and things like that. But we'll save that for another episode here as we wind down momentarily. But one thing I'll mention is that if any of this messaging content is interesting to you, Jamey and I are talking about different kicking around ideas, brainstorming stage, different things we might be able to do together. But if you're interested, please reach out to us, support@new.fit, and we'd love to talk more, with all of you. And I also want to make sure, Jamey, you have a chance to share your, where people can find you on your URL, social media. But before that, I'll hold up a copy of the book again. But before that, is there anything more to say, to conclude this discussion? I mean, we covered a lot. There's many other places we could
Yeah.
go, but what else do you feel like we need to?
Well, I'll kind of leave it at this because, you know, for most people listening, this was pretty heavy stuff. Because the minute we get out of clinical world, clinical can be heavy too, but our brains are just built for that and trained for that. This stuff, a lot of it isn't as tangible because we're talking about, improving ourselves and elevating ourselves and self-development and learning communication skills and all this other stuff. And that can be like heavy, like, oh my God, I'm just trying to survive in my practice. I mean, can't you just tell me the formula of how to, get more patients in my using the newbie or something? And, we're professionals and the pros, this is how they do it. It's deeper work. It's a journey of doing it, but the results are exponential. So what I will say is I just appreciate if you're listening, I just appreciate your just courage and being here and listening and taking that first step, just leaning into it and learning and realizing that we are here to help the world, heal the world. I like to call it healers healing the world. That's what we do. And guess what? The world needs a lot of healing. And what Garrett's doing is unbelievable, but you are the army. You are his army of getting this out there and helping people. So I would just say, if there's anything I can do to help you, I would go to my website, practicefreedomu, the letter u.com. There's a quiz there. The quiz kind of real quick. It just kind of answer some questions around your business. What are you having some challenges with? And then if you like, we can jump on a brief call and kind of talk about that. And, if it's something that we can help you with further, we're happy to do it.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much. I look forward to continuing our conversations, getting to know each other better here, and also there's so much other content that you have. Perhaps doing another episode in the future as well. So
Yeah,
awesome,
I'd love that.
and perhaps a round of golf at some point, either in Maryland or in Austin.
I'd
There
love that
we
even
go.
more.
There we go. So, thank you, Jamey. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of the Undercurrent podcast. And please like, subscribe, leave a review, all that stuff. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Bye, everybody.